While China is our greatest geopolitical and economic threat, it is Iran that has the blood of our service members on its hands in both Syria, Iraq, and other foreign theaters. Iran does not share our core values or our interest in stability around the world or in the Middle East. While President Trump engaged in what was known as a maximum, leverage foreign policy against Iran, where they tried to squeeze as much out of Iran as they could with sanctions, the Biden administration, just with less than 100 days into the administration, is engaged in what's a very controversial decision to re-engage Iran, to the chagrin of our U.S. allies in that part of the world, including Israel, which has voiced tremendous concerns and have basically said that if Biden goes back into this agreement, it paves the road to Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon and does nothing else except provide it with a nuclear shield, just the way the North Korean regime has. And we see what kind of headache a nuclear weapon has caused us in North Korea vis-a-vis in Libya, in which Gaddafi did not have a nuclear weapon. He was easily deposed of. Of course, Libya has its own issues right now. But this is a very dangerous path that the Biden administration is going down, and it actually does nothing to preserve our interests.
No, it's an important point you make about Libya, and yes, things could be better there in Libya. But Muammar Gaddafi, a bad guy by all accounts, had started to move in the right direction. He had given up his nuclear weapons. He was becoming a better partner to work with. But of course, they took him out. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama destabilized a lot of things, and provided this incentive for people like the Ayatollah and the Iranian people to look at this and say, hey, look, we want to get that kind of money too. Like Pakistan, for example, they have a nuclear weapon, and they really just extort money from countries like us and other places.
And that's exactly the road that the Biden administration is taking us. We are going back to the days, as you mentioned, of leading behind and appeasing state sponsors of terror and genocidal regimes like the CCP. The whatever benefits, if you will, that the Biden administration believes that it's going to get out of this agreement by buckling to Iran's extortion, the risks and the potential costs far outweigh these benefits. And our allies in the Middle East are watching, and they're going to start looking to other rival powers in that part of the world, similarly to how they did under the Obama administration when Russia gained this tremendous foothold in the Middle East. When their vacuum emerges based on the U.S. exiting its leadership role, that's when rival powers emerge. And that's why we have seen this ascendancy of China and Russia. And I only see this trend continuing under the Biden administration's failed pursuit of this peace deal with Iran, which will never come from. As Secretary Pompeo mentioned, the Ayatollahs know one thing and one thing only, and that's strength. If you show them weakness, they are going to respond with violence.
This is what we've seen. History is a lesson that should be taken into account here. George, real quickly as we wrap up, we know we've been kind of following this story about Joseph Mifsud. You know this guy very well, obviously instrumental in your story, and those who have followed you and know your story know his name. So the Italian government has completely collapsed, and this happens in Italy. But now in this process, Joseph Mifsud has re-emerged. Talk to us about what you know about the latest here.
Well, look, this is quite a story. I mean, this has been going on for 4 years now, and it's still making headlines in Italy and other parts of the world. And so what essentially has happened is the Italian government has collapsed, which frequently happens. But there's this new focus now on Italy's potential involvement and the weaponization or the utilization of Joseph Mifsud in interfering in the 2016 presidential election, and his potential impact on harming and sabotaging the Trump campaign. So right now, the newest information that's just coming out of Italy just yesterday is that Joseph Mifsud's own lawyer, this individual named Stephen Rowe, he had been quite vocal over the last months about his client's case, has stated that he has been interviewed by Durham and that Durham is zeroing in on Joseph Mifsud's activities and which governments or agency was handling him. So this just came out yesterday. I think we're going to start learning a lot more about what Durham has been up to over the last months, because this isn't being covered in the mainstream media in the United States. But fortunately, the Italian media is covering it, and we're starting to get a little bit more of an inside perspective of what Durham's really